Aaron Rodgers explained in detail why it was Mike Williams' fault. Yesterday, he explained to Pat McAfee, he's just a truth teller, dude. You deal with that. I think if you watch my press conferences, I've started with myself when I've made mistakes. That's the standard for everybody. So I wasn't calling Mike out for anything but his responsibility in the details on that play. We all should be held to a standard. Your reaction?
So I saw this live, the McAfee thing yesterday, and my reaction in the moment wasn't much. And then yesterday on the way home, I was scrolling Twitter and I came across Connor Hughes, who covers the Jets for SNY, and a video like a report he did, and I became incensed. So and I'll explain it. So let me just show you the first 15 seconds of Connor Hughes from SNY yesterday, right after they got Devontae Adams. Him summing up.
Well, the Jets lost to the Denver Broncos because they couldn't do anything on offense. They lost to the Minnesota Vikings because Allen Lazard dropped 4 passes, including a touchdown. And they lost to the Buffalo Bills on Monday night because Mike Williams ran the wrong route.
So, of course, what you don't hear anywhere there is the name Aaron Rodgers. And that is when I realized, Wilds, remember how last week I said, I basically called you a rube, called you a mark when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, that he tricks you and you believe him? I realized I was a rube yesterday. Because I let Aaron Rodgers set the narrative. Aaron Rodgers, by calling out Mike Williams, he made it to where the conversation was going to be, at best, for him, Mike Williams is not good. In fact, the Jets should trade him, and by the way, they are. And at worst, the conversation was Aaron Rodgers, bad teammate. But you know what conversation?
Leader.
You know what conversation wasn't had? Did Aaron Rodgers just lose them another game? Would the New York Jets be 5-1 if the last 3 weeks, instead of playing like this, Aaron Rodgers just played mediocre football?
We're going to let this clip play. If you think that Aaron Rodgers is the problem and his mediocre play is the problem, I don't even know what to tell you. I really, really don't. Because it's not like Aaron is just making these awful throws and these terrible reads. When you watch Aaron Rodgers play, you still see the eliteness in him. Whether it be his arm, whether it be above the shoulders, like, it's all there. And that's why Aaron is frustrated. Because it's just like, he's kind of, again, he's in his Tom Brady era where it's like, what do you want me to do with this talent around me? Get me guys who know how to run a route. It was Mike Williams' fault. It absolutely was. And I'm not saying that he should have said it out loud. I'm still on the fence about that. But Aaron, I understand why Aaron did, because he gets so much constant scrutiny. And a lot of people will watch that and just say, oh, well, Aaron underthrew him, right? And even when I first saw it live, because I was doing the live stream, so I didn't really get to watch it, I was like, oh, did Aaron underthrow him? I can't tell. I wasn't sure. And again, it was like I couldn't really I think they like had the replay, but then they cut to it really quickly, so I didn't even really get to see it until afterwards. And it is absolutely Mike Williams' fault, which we'll talk about later.
Did he lose him a game against the Vikings by throwing a pick to Mike Williams? And did he lose him a game against the Bills by throwing a pick that was maybe more his fault than he's letting on? So then I called up the finest football mind I know. That person didn't answer, and I found Coach. And I asked Coach, is what Aaron Rodgers, is the tale he's spinning true? So, Coach, I hand it to you.
Yeah, so the tale he's spinning is absolutely true. Mike Williams did make a mistake on the play. The problem I have with Aaron Rodgers is everybody has a chance to go to the podium. And the rule of thumb is you don't call out the other guys. Exactly. If anything, you take accountability, especially at the quarterback position, because we understand that the quarterback makes a lot of mistakes, other guys make a lot of mistakes, and you're trying to protect each other and move forward without doing what Aaron does. And Aaron says, hey, he's holding everybody to a standard, which he should as a quarterback, but he doesn't have the same grace when people hold him to the standard, which is the problem I have. But let's take a look at the play, because Aaron is exactly right in this situation. So the Jets are lined up in this 2-by-2 formation. Wilson's going to run the over route down at the bottom. Lazard's going to run the middle read, and then up top, Mike Williams is supposed to run a fade, an outside release fade. It's cover 2 defense by the Bills, so the corners are going to press, and it's going to be half field by each safety. Mandatory outside release for Mike Williams. He's got to get outside. Now, at this point, he's inside the numbers. Aaron talks about the red line. That's an imaginary line 5 yards from the sideline that goes all the way down the field. We actually draw it on the practice field so guys know where it is. It's supposed to be. Lazard draws through both safeties and the Mike linebacker who's taking it. And look at the space by the red line that's open, which is what Aaron Rodgers is expecting. So he comes off the middle read. He's going to the red line. Williams isn't there, so he tries to throw him a ball that he can adjust to. So he is absolutely right in terms of the sense that mandatory outside release, get deep. There's a space there because everybody had bit on the middle read by Lazard. And then when he realizes it and throws the ball, to that space.
So it's not fair to say, Rodgers underthrew it. He purposely was throwing it that way.
Well, he's expecting in that green area of the field that I showed you where Williams should be, he's expecting to be there. When he sees that Williams is actually inside the numbers, he's now trying to throw him a ball that he can adjust
to. But that's the part that I have a question about. Because Aaron says in the thing, he was like, I was doing a no look. And when you look at it, it wasn't really a no look, but that's fine. He doesn't. It's not fourth down.
Yep.
He doesn't have to make that throw. As you saw in the All-22 there, if people were watching, he has Breece Hall right there for a check down that might get the first down.
But it was, what, 3rd and 16?
It was 3rd and 16, and Breece Hall's got nobody within 10 yards of him. But you don't – I don't doubt that Mike Williams –
It was a great play because Aaron had to adjust on the fly, 3rd and 16, and he threw a ball that Mike Williams should have caught if he didn't slip. So Mike Williams was in the wrong spot at the wrong time, poor execution, and yet Aaron Rodgers, in his greatness, still threw him essentially a perfect ball when you think about it. If he just didn't slip, Mike Williams is able to come back and get that ball. So it was actually a beautiful pass, a beautiful decision. I mean, so to try to pile on to Aaron Rodgers for this makes zero sense.
Williams ran the wrong route. What I doubt is the narrative of Aaron had no choice, but when he realized the receiver ran the wrong route, to put the ball in jeopardy. He didn't have to make that throw. There were plenty of other things he could have done.
It was a pretty great play by the safety, too, just to give the Bills a little bit of credit. And the ball was positioned where Mike Williams was. It was a well-thrown ball, considering all things considered. So did he have to put it in jeopardy? No, he didn't have to put it in jeopardy. Did he have to call out Mike Williams? No, he didn't have to call out Mike Williams. If he had hit that play, he never would have held Mike to that standard.
Right.
It's because he throws a pick, and now suddenly it's like, hey, it's not me, it's everybody else.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think people are starting to talk about if this season continues to go south, will it affect his legacy? And the natural thought, I think, is he's 40, he's coming off injury. If he's not the same player, it's no big deal. But I actually think this is a big deal because I think people, like, his lack of leadership is beginning, at least with me, I'm looking at, this is why he's only been to one Super Bowl in 15 years or whatever as a starter, as a healthy starter, because I'm big on the intangibles. And Brady didn't have as much physical talent. Montana didn't have as much physical talent. You could argue Peyton Manning, not as much physical talent as Rodgers. Mahomes does, but that's it. And they are the ones that consistently got to Super Bowls, even a guy like a Terry Bradshaw, because they had intangibles, and one of those, Coach, is taking accountability and not throwing your teammates under the bus. And I think Rodgers leads with his ego and his arrogance. Like, when you think of Aaron Rodgers outside of football, you think of arrogance, ego. You don't, any of those other guys I mentioned, you don't think of that. You don't think of arrogance or ego, even though they obviously have egos, but they have a healthy ego, whereas I think Rodgers is kind of gets in his way.
I also have this, like, I want to throw this at you, Wilds. How does it inform, now that we know Davante Adams basically found out he was coming to the Jets Monday night, because he was there Tuesday morning, how does it inform us that Rodgers is throwing a guy under the bus publicly twice that he knows they're about to move on from? Like that he knows once Davante is coming there, Rodgers knows, I knew it.
That might be
Everyone
why he
covering
did
the Jets.
it, yeah.
Right, but That's a word to me. That is such a sleazy move.
Well, but how about the fact that the reason Devontae Adams was at the Raiders in the first place is because Aaron wanted all the money in Green Bay.
Right.
He needed
Look, Andy loves Derek Carr. We have
well,
to be
he
fair
needed,
there.
He needed a new contract, so they couldn't say it like.
All right. Well, listen. We don't need to. Now we're starting to call Aaron Rodgers, names. Listen, I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers is perfect. I wish Aaron Rodgers was a better leader in all that regard. But here's the thing. Players absolutely love him. So if you want to talk about intangibles and all of this type of stuff, the locker room and players have consistently loved him. Think I'm wrong? Devontae literally picked the Jets. The Jets are 2-4. He's going because he wants to play with Aaron Rodgers. So if Aaron Rodgers was this bad leader, throws people under the bus, and people didn't like him and didn't have the intangibles, then why do all these players consistently want to follow Aaron? Why do they consistently have pretty much nothing but positives to say about him? So no, I reject this idea that Aaron Rodgers is fundamentally a bad leader or throws people under the bus or whatever. Because you just don't see it. Do you see how people talk about Russell Wilson? That's people don't like Russ. People love Aaron Rodgers and defend him just endlessly and will go to play with him. So no, I really wholeheartedly disagree with that. And the other thing is this. Here's the reality. It's really easy to be a leader when you're making all the money and you're getting all the glory. It's really easy for Tom Brady to take some of the shots fired when he has the legacy and he can kind of be that leader. But when you're getting the scrutiny, like people blame Aaron Rodgers, that's why he hasn't gotten to the Super Bowls, this or that. Right? Like it has nothing to do with the defenses. It has nothing to do with Mike McCarthy being his head coach for virtually his entire career. Like it has nothing to do with those things, right? Nothing to do with that. Like, come on. That's absurd. Of course it does. Of course it does. Peyton Manning won a Super Bowl his final year. Very little to do with him. We could say he was a game manager all we want, but it was the defense that won. He didn't even play the whole season. So it's just not fair. And again, if you want to blame Aaron for some of his decisions that he's made, I think that's more fair. But I'm not going to blame him for some of his lack of Super Bowl success and say it's because he lacks the intangibles. I mean, that's a bridge too far. That's just not fair. If Mike McCarthy was such an unbelievable coach, why is him and Dak Prescott not going into Super Bowls? Why is he having all these 12-win series but then can't get the job done? Why is he clearly out-coached playoff after playoff after playoff? So again, when you have some of those issues and when you haven't been given the gifts that some of these other quarterbacks have given, you get the insane scrutiny that Rodgers gets, yeah, he's going to naturally be more defensive. Just like Tom Brady was defensive about Baker Mayfield. And when Baker Mayfield said, "Oh, the everything was really intense and they just wanted me to kind of bring the joy back to football or whatever." And Tom Brady took offense to it. And he goes, "Yeah, well, I'm not here. If I wanted to have fun, I'd go to Disneyland with my kids." Right? Like he said that. And you could say, well, Tom Brady should have been the bigger man, right? He's got all the money, all the glory. He doesn't have to kind of go after Baker Mayfield. He could just say, yeah, I get what Baker's saying. We just have different approaches to the game. And haha, it feels like the way how I approach it. It worked pretty well for me, Anyway, and then you just move on. But instead, it got tense. And you could say, dude, Tom Brady, he's not even playing right now. Cooler heads prevail. Right? Like he just kind of got caught on a soundbite in a podcast that was probably taken somewhat out of context, right? But it's Tom Brady. So it's just Aaron Rodgers always ends up being the easy target to lob this type of criticism at. And I get it. Some of it is brought on to himself. Some of it, absolutely. But a lot of it is not either. It's really not. And I think some of it can be unfair. Some criticism is completely fair game. And I'm all about hey, that's why these guys get paid all the amount of money that they get. Criticism is part of the game, right? We're going to pay you hundreds of millions of dollars. And because of that, fans and media and shows like this, we have the ability to rip you apart and say whatever we want. And that's why you get paid all that. You get paid just a boatload of money. It's just part of the job, right? So I'm all for that. but I want it to at the very least be fair. And I just don't feel that it's always fair, quite frankly. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Aaron Rodgers and the criticism and I guess him throwing Mike Williams under the bus? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.